Welcome to The Real Debrief, the show where we dive deep into the world of film production, exploring the genres you love, the projects making waves, and the trends shaping the industry. We're here to give you a 360-degree review for entertainment professionals. So grab your popcorn and get ready for some expert insights. And, well, the occasional bed joke from Talen. It's The Real Debrief. Now your hosts, Talen and Lisa.
What's up, folks? Welcome back to the podcast. You're tuning in to another episode where we deep dive into the weird, the wild, and the downright brilliant. As always, I'm your host, Talen, and joining me with her razor-sharp wit and unmatched insights is my fabulous co-host, Lisa. How's it going, Lisa?
Thanks for the intro, Talen. I'm good. Ready to dive into this one because, ooh boy, Bad Genius, the remake, is something that's got a lot going on. Let's just say I'm fired up today, and not just because I finished my third cup of coffee. We're talking class, race, privilege, and a whole heist narrative wrapped into one movie. You ready?
Always ready, Lisa. And I'm extra pumped for this episode because Bad Genius isn't just any high school movie, right? It's got that heist element, almost like Ocean's 11, but with more homework and less George Clooney. But before we dive in too deep, let's hit them with the basics, all right? So, Bad Genius, for those who haven't seen it yet, is a remake of the 2017 Thai hit of the same name. The original version was this slick, edge-of-your-seat thriller about students pulling off a massive cheating scam to ace their exams. It's all about how they outsmart the system using their smarts to get into prestigious universities for a price. But the twist with the remake? This time, it's got an added layer of racial tension, particularly with our main character Lynn, an Asian American student, and her wealthy white classmates. There's a lot going on, and we're gonna dissect it all.
Yes, and yes. But before we get into the meat of the plot, let's just acknowledge that when you add racial politics into a high school heist movie, especially one that tackles cheating scandals and college admissions, things are bound to get messy. It's ambitious for sure, but ambitious doesn't always mean success. And Bad Genius is trying to do a lot of things. You've got the heist elements, the social commentary, and oh yeah, that whole college admissions controversy layered on top.
Yeah, definitely ambitious. The original Thai film stuck to its heist roots, kids with crazy smart plans to cheat the system. It had tension, wit, and heart, but this remake, it's not just a heist movie anymore. It's trying to be a scathing commentary on privilege, the broken education system, and let's not forget the real dynamics at play here in America. So let's break it down from the start. The main character, Lynn, played by Kalina Liang, is a scholarship student. She's at this fancy school where everyone's trying to get into top-tier universities, and she's got the brains for it. Straight A's, high achieving, all the things we expect from a character who's clearly supposed to be perfect.
Right, but then we hit the first big conflict. She's invited to this fancy dinner by one of her wealthy white classmates. The parents there, yeah, they want her to help their son get into Columbia University. And not just help. They want her to do whatever it takes. We're talking tutoring, sure, but maybe, more.
Yep. And let's be real. When they say whatever it takes, it's got that creepy, veiled, we'll give you money under the table kind of vibe, It's uncomfortable to say the least, and it's pretty clear from the jump that Lynn is just a pawn for these rich parents. They see her not as a peer to their son, but as a tool to get what they want.
Exactly, and that's where the racial undertones come in. The movie doesn't explicitly say, hey, this is about white privilege and Asian American students being exploited, but that's absolutely what's going on here. It's painfully obvious. Lynn's the smart, hard-working student from a working-class background, and she's being used by these rich, entitled white folks who think they can buy her off.
Right. But here's the thing. The movie tries to set itself up as this biting commentary on privilege and race, but it kind of falters. It's like they wanted to call out these rich white characters for being exploitative, but then they pull their punches. I mean, there's never really that moment where the film goes deep and says, yeah, that is what's going on. They sort of dance around it without ever saying the word white. Like, come on, just say it.
Exactly, and that's what bugged me. The racial dynamics are there, they're glaringly obvious, but the film is too scared to fully address them. It's like they wanted to say something bold, but then chickened out. So instead of getting a powerful statement on race and privilege in America, we get a teenage heist movie with some light commentary.
Yeah, light commentary that never really goes anywhere. And then you've got Lynn, who decides to start running this cheating ring. I mean, at first, it's just to help her friends, I'll share my answers, no big deal. But then it escalates. Suddenly, she's running this whole operation where rich kids are paying her big money to get the answers on their tests.
Right, and here's where the movie shines a bit more. The heist part of it, that's where the tension really kicks in. You see these elaborate setups with hidden messages, secret codes, and kids trying to outsmart their teachers without getting caught. It's fun, it's intense, and for a minute, you're like, okay, this is what I came for.
Yeah, those scenes are where Bad Genius feels the most alive. It's like when you're watching an old school heist film, and the crew is putting their plan together, but instead of robbing a bank, they're trying to outsmart a bunch of standardized tests.
Exactly, it's those moments where Lynn's cleverness and wit really shine. You see her putting together these intricate plans and think, this girl could run a Fortune 500 company if she wanted to. But of course, things go sideways, and that's when the stakes get higher.
Yeah, and then we get introduced to Bank, played by Jabari Banks. He's another scholarship student, but this time, his parents are Nigerian immigrants. And let me tell you, he's the one character who adds some real depth to the movie. You see his struggles. He's dealing with the pressure of representing his family's sacrifices, trying to make it in this high-stakes academic world. And unlike Lynn, who starts bending the rules, Bank is more of a straight-laced, by-the-book kind of guy.
Totally. And then, of course, Lynn ropes him into her schemes because she knows he's just as smart as she is, but he's reluctant. Bank doesn't want to cheat. He's got this strong moral compass, and it's clear that he's been raised to believe in hard work and honesty. But as the movie goes on, the pressure mounts, and he's forced to make some tough choices.
Right. And this is where we get a little more of that class tension. Bank's parents are immigrants, and there's that added layer of them working their butts off to give him a chance at a better life. So for him, the idea of cheating feels like it's undermining everything they've worked for. But on the flip side, you see how rigged the system is. These rich kids can basically buy their way into college while he's struggling just to keep up.
And here's the thing. There's potential for a real conversation about class and race here. But once again, the movie pulls its punches. Bank's character is great, but we never really get to explore his story in the way that we should. He's sort of sidelined in favor of Lynn. And it's a missed opportunity because his perspective could have added so much more depth to the film.
Totally. Bank is a great foil for Lynn, and I wish we got to see more of that conflict. But instead, the movie just sort of brushes past it. And by the time we get to the final act, it's all about the heist again. Which, don't get me wrong, is interesting, but it feels like the deeper issue just gets left in the dust.
Exactly. And then we get to the big heist, the ultimate cheating scandal that's supposed to score them enough money to pay for college. It's this high-stakes operation where they have to outsmart not just their teachers, but the entire college admissions system. It's fun to watch, but at the same time, you're sitting there like, okay, but what's the message here? Is it that the system's broken and students are forced to cheat just to survive? Or that these kids are just really smart and trying to game the system because they can? It feels like the movie wants to say both things, but by the end, it's all muddled.
Yes, Lisa, exactly. That's where the movie stumbles. Bad Genius can't seem to decide what it wants to be at its core. Is it a biting commentary on privilege and the American education system? Or is it just a fun, teen-centered heist flick? I mean, at moments it tries to be both, but it doesn't go deep enough into either. So instead of feeling satisfying, it leaves you with this weird aftertaste. Like, sure, I was entertained, but what did I really walk away with?
Yep, and the whole thing kind of collapses under the weight of its own ambition. It's like they were too afraid to alienate viewers by leaning too heavily into the social issues, so they tried to lighten it with humor and thrills. But in doing that, they lost the sharpness that made the original so compelling. At the end of the day, you're left thinking, yeah, this was okay. But it's not really the kind of movie that makes you sit back and reflect on the bigger picture.
Yeah, exactly. And I get that they were trying to balance entertainment with a message, but they needed to commit to one. If you're going to make a movie that critiques privilege, you have to be fearless. You can't dance around the subject, right? I mean, or you risk losing the impact of the message altogether, like we saw here.
Right. And I have to say, it's frustrating because the original Bad Genius was so good. It kept you on the edge of your seat, had you rooting for the characters even though they were technically doing something wrong, and it didn't shy away from showing how corrupt and unfair the system was. This remake? It just doesn't hit the same.
And let's talk about the acting for a second. Kalina Liang, who plays Lin, definitely holds her own. I mean, you can see that she's carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders, and she has these moments of intensity that really land. But the rest of the cast, it's kind of hit or miss.
Totally. Benedict Wong, who plays her dad, was criminally underused. Every time he's on screen, he's this bright spot, bringing depth and emotion to the role of a father who has sacrificed so much for his daughter. But he barely gets any screen time. And that's such a waste because his character could have added so much more to the story.
Yeah, Wong is always great. And he could have been the emotional anchor of the film if they'd just given him more to do. But instead, his scenes felt a little like snippets that didn't really go anywhere. I mean, we never really get a sense of the father-daughter relationship, which could have added more emotional stakes to the story, right?
Exactly. And it's a shame because that relationship could have been a really strong counterpoint to all the craziness going on with the heist. It could have grounded the story in something real, something that resonates. But instead, we get these half-baked moments that don't add up to much.
And speaking of moments that don't add up to much, can we talk about how underwhelming the climax of the movie was? You've got this huge, elaborate cheating plan that's supposed to be the big payoff, but it just kind of happens. There's no real tension, no sense of danger. It's like the movie forgot it was supposed to be exciting.
Yes, I was waiting for the big dramatic, oh no, they're going to get caught moment. But it never came. The heist just sort of goes off without a hitch and then it's over. And I get they're trying to show how smart and clever these kids are. But without any real stakes, it's hard to care.
Exactly. And again, this is where the movie could have leaned into the social commentary. If they'd shown the consequences of what happens when you're caught cheating, or the impact of this broken system on kids who have to resort to this just to get ahead, I mean, it could have been way more powerful. But instead, it feels like they wanted to play it safe. And in doing so, they missed the opportunity to make a real statement.
Right. It's like they wanted to tell us how messed up the system is, but they didn't want to actually show it. And that's where it gets frustrating because you can see the potential for something much deeper, but it never quite gets there.
And then the ending just kind of happens. You don't get that satisfying resolution where you feel like the characters have grown or learned something. Lin and Bank go through all this, and by the end, you're not really sure what's changed for them. Are they just going to keep cheating their way through life? I mean, have they learned that the system is rigged and they need to play dirty to survive? We don't know.
Exactly, and that's the biggest disappointment for me. A good heist movie should leave you with some kind of emotional payoff, whether it's a moral lesson or just the thrill of seeing the plan come together. But here, it's like the movie just fizzles out, and that's such a shame because it could have been so much more.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But Bad Genius had all the pieces to be something really special. Great premise, a solid lead actress, and a chance to tackle some heavy issues like race, class, and privilege. But instead, it just feels like they were too afraid to go all in on any of those elements.
Yep. So in the end, I think Bad Genius is one of those movies that you watch, enjoy it for a couple of hours, and then forget about it pretty quickly. It had so much potential, but it never really capitalized on it.
Yeah, totally agree. It's like they wanted to have their cake and eat it too. They wanted to give us fun, thrilling heist movie, but also throw in some social commentary. But by not fully committing to either, they ended up with something that's just kind of bland.
Yeah, it's a frustrating watch because you can see how good it could have been. And honestly, if you're looking for a solid heist movie that also has something to say, just watch the original Thai version. It's sharper, it's more thrilling, and it doesn't shy away from showing how rigged the system really is.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself, Lisa. So if you haven't seen Bad Genius yet, I'd say check it out if you're into teen heist movies, but just don't expect anything revolutionary. If you're looking for something with a bit more bite, though, definitely go back and watch the original. It'll give you the thrills and commentary that this remake was totally missing.
Yep, and with that, I think we've said all we can about Bad Genius. Thanks for sticking with us, folks, as we tried to figure out what this movie was really trying to say.
Definitely. And hey, if you've seen Bad Genius and you've got a different take, or if you think we missed something, hit us up on social media. We'd love to hear your thoughts, especially if you think this movie had more to offer than what we saw.
Yeah, let's keep the conversation going. Maybe there's some hidden genius in Bad Genius that we missed. But as it stands, I'm still waiting for that spark.
Same here, Lisa. But hey, that's what makes talking about movies fun, right? You never know where the conversation's gonna go. And that's a wrap for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Yes, thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and tell your friends about the podcast if you enjoyed today's discussion. We've got plenty more to come, and you won't want to miss it.
Absolutely. And next time, we're tackling something a little more fire. So get ready. Until then, I'm Talen, she's Lisa, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Stay curious, stay critical, and don't be afraid to call out a bad movie when you see one.
Yep, don't let those bad movies slide. See you next time, folks.
This has been The Real Debrief. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, like, rate, and review. We'll see you soon on The Real Debrief.